the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are author Barbara Schroeder and playwright Mark Troy. Award-winning newscaster Barbara Schroeder was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. She earned a master's from the University of Michigan after graduating from the University of Northern Michigan. She began her news career at the ABC affiliate in Flint, Michigan. Went on to national shows where she won Emmys and local news awards. In fact, Barbara was an investigative reporter at Fox News KTTV in Los Angeles for 12 years, and that's where we all saw her. She's produced documentaries, written books, and how easy was it for you to get on TV in Flint, Michigan?
You know, a little harder than you'd think it would be. I was an intern, I was a sports intern, unpaid, for a solid year. I got McDonald's for them, and I ran the teleprompter, and then finally they said, you work like a dog, so do you want to start working in news? And that's how I started.
Was it just out of school?
No, my first job out of school was with United Way. And I wanted to be in television, and I couldn't get in originally, so I sidetracked into United Way and then got into television.
Were you in the communications department at
Yes,
school?
I was.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
So you were waiting.
I went, and I couldn't get a degree in journalism because I could only afford to go to school at night. I had to work during the day, and so I got a degree in communications. Do you have one in communications?
I
Because
have
you're a great
one
communicator.
in education and a minor in journalism.
Oh, wow.
So I was at SC.
Yeah.
But now that department is fantastic.
Oh.
When we were there, it was like this little second floor studio.
We had our first book event at USC at the Festival of Books, and it was, you're right, all the media.
Yeah, now it's very, very big.
Yeah.
So did you come to LA to get a job in broadcasting?
I was actually scouted in Flint, Michigan. Luckily, the news director from KTTV happened to be in town I think it was a relative's event or something, wedding or something, and he saw me on TV, and he called me and said, come on out to LA, and I thought it was a joke, but he was serious.
And what were you doing? Sports?
After I was the sports intern, I worked my way up to reporter and then weekday anchor.
So you were a weekday anchor.
Yeah.
So when you came to LA, what was your job?
I was the weekend anchor and intrepid reporter.
Yeah, but you were doing all this investigative things. Were you uncovering stories that the newspapers didn't have?
Well, it's yes and no. There would be newspaper stories, and they would be handed to us, and I always hated just regurgitating what was in the paper, so we'd go out and try and get,
a different
something
angle?
to make it fresher, like in the old newspaper days, like where you used to work, where you did practice real journalism and not just talking on camera.
No, we really did, because we had to.
Yeah.
And we had to cover. We couldn't send it in by phone.
Right.
We had to be there.
Right. On the street, right?
Exactly. You've made appearances on 2020 and Nancy Grace, and participating in which way and doing what?
Usually as either as an investigative reporter, they ask me to look into a case, like on a Nancy Grace show, they're talking about a specific case.
So you would give your opinion?
Yes, and go out and get a few more facts for them, hopefully. And then also for a documentary that I did called Tall Hot Blonde, which...
Oh, that's what I'd like to talk about too. So, because you did a documentary in 2006. When was Tall Hot Blonde?
Tall Hot Blonde was 2009.
Oh, so it was. Let's start in 2005. You did something, right?
Yes.
Let's start there.
Well,
what was that?
I wrote a book called The Diet for Teenagers Only.
Right. That was fantastic.
And kind of random, different from Beverly Hills Confidential Murders and Mysteries, and a diet book, kind of a...
How did you do? Why did you come up with that idea?
I was driving carpool with my daughter and her friends. They were 13, 14 at the time. They were on a different diet every week for mothers, and I said, well, you should be on a diet for your age, because you need calcium. And they said, there isn't a diet book. So I talked to Judith Regan, who worked at Fox,
Oh, right.
and came up with the plan for writing a diet book.
Oh,
So
that
it's
was
pretty random. No murders in that book.
No, but that was
God.
great because
Thank you.
teenage diet. They always
Yeah.
think they can do anything an adult can do, but they have
Yes,
different needs.
They do. They're young. They're growing. They're supposed to eat.
Right.
Yeah.
So then in 2006, you did a documentary.
That was my very first documentary. It
Secret.
was 6.5 Secrets of Love. And it was interviewing therapists, established therapists like John Gray and Dr. Pat Allen to preserve all of their wisdom.
It's a kind of corny Secrets of Love.
Yeah.
Was it? But I mean, do we want to know secrets of love?
Yes, because
I think
doesn't
we do.
everybody in the end want to be, loved unconditionally at least once in their lifetime?
And know how to do it, but
And
there
if
are
not-
always
and if you-
secrets.
And if you can't be loved unconditionally, you learn how to live happily by yourself, which was one of the secrets.
Was that one of the
Yes.
secrets? Yeah.
Yes.
See, I can see that because that's like telling you you've got to do something for yourself.
Right.
Okay, 2010 Lifetime documentary.
Yes, that was really a wonderful journey because the documentary started in film festivals. We were lucky to win some awards there, and it was just briefly, it was the true story of a crazy internet love triangle where a mother pretends to be her daughter online, her beautiful daughter online.
I remember this.
And gets these guys online, and one guy ends up killing his coworker in real life over this girl that they never met in person. That was an imaginary person. And it was the best story of my career.
How did you get people to talk?
I drove out to West Virginia. I drove up to New York, to upstate New York, and hung out and got people, because they hadn't talked to anybody in the media before. They were all kind of scared.
What
to
were you
talk,
doing?
so-
Were you recording it with a camera?
Yeah, I hired a couple
Did you have
camera
a- oh,
crews,
you
and I had my
did.
own little camera for people that didn't want to talk on camera. And it was good old-fashioned journalism to get a great story that needed to be told.
And that wasn't so long ago.
No,
So
that
you
was just-
still could use good
Yes.
techniques.
Yes, which are, I think, sadly missing in a lot of journalism
know,
today.
I know.
Hopefully.
So, did that play on campuses? Did that play everywhere?
We got a lot of exposure with the attractive group that advertisers like, the 18 to
Yeah.
54, because a lot of young kids were interested in it, and a lot of people who were the age of the people in the documentary who were pretending to be younger. It was
Unbelievable.
people were very familiar with the story. So,
Yeah.
and then Lifetime came around, and they optioned the rights to make a movie, and they got Courtney Cox to direct it, and she did an incredible job. But again, kind of a non sequitur. Like, why would a beautiful comedic actress want to? But she had seen the documentary 5 times and loved it, and wanted to get into directing, and she did an amazing job.
So they did a movie of it then too.
Yep.
Were you connected? Were you part of the doc?
Kind of. I had this. I would have done everything like it really happened, because I believe in the truth and nothing but the truth, ma'am. But they made it cinematic, and it plays like American Beauty, and it's a great cautionary tale for the internet age
But it
today.
is good just to know those
Yeah.
things. So now we're to Beverly Hills Confidential.
Yes. Which
And how long did it take you to write?
we worked on this for at least 2 years,
Oh.
and this was by far, this is unprecedented access to police files. I've never had this kind of access to information, not just police files, but also we went to old newspaper archives, to the Los Angeles Herald Examiner archive, where you worked for.
I know. We
I
had
wanna
the best archives, didn't we? Because
Oh.
we weren't afraid to
Yes.
report what we saw.
Yes.
It wasn't like sweeping stuff under the table.
And there were more newspapers at the time. What was it, like 4 or 5? How
Right.
much competition
And
did
we
you have?
we had competition, but we had a lot of room. We had a lot of space. I could write forever. I could write a whole page.
Yeah, yeah, and that made a difference in researching the older story, because we cover 100 years worth of crimes, from the
I was
Greystone
gonna ask
Mansion
you from-
murders to
From what year to what year? From
And-
the 1900s?
from 1900s, and it was more effective researching the older stories, because I had 4 to 5 newspapers to look at, and the police files, and then after.
And it was all here.
Yeah, pretty much. Yes, yes.
So you had the
Absolutely.
Mirror and the Daily News, and you
UCLA,
had
yes, yes, which was delightful.
and the Herald and the Examiner and the Times. You had
And even going back to the first major murder mystery at the Greystone Mansion, which happened in 1929, where like who killed who, where the son of the richest oil man
Right.
got shot by his male secretary, or did he? And we were able to go back, and we found headlines that police officers, when they would leave their scrapbooks and give them, when they passed away, they'd give them to the police department. And we'd get these newspaper headlines of, here's what happened. So I had 4 to 5 different newspapers to choose from and get all the facts.
And not only that, with those kind of stories, you had the social coverage too.
Yes.
Because that was involved in what, wasn't it?
And
yes.
The Luella Parsons.
And Joyce Haber later on.
And they played, they were pivotal, not just talky, gossipy people, but they had inside information on some of the murders, like the Jean Harlow. Bombshell Jean Harlow. This happened in Beverly Hills. She's a beautiful, young, fabulous, sexy superstar, marries a studio executive, and he dies 8 weeks after they're married.
I know. What was that?
Shot by a secret wife that he had stashed away at the Algonquin in New York.
Is that what happened?
Yes.
So what was the most gruesome?
The most gruesome visually, by far, was the Menendez murders, where the Menendez sons, that
on Elm.
Oh yes. Oh my gosh. You know the area.
I know very well.
And the photos, and we debated whether or not you use photos that were that gruesome in a book like this, because this isn't a tabloidy, look at we have very few bloody pictures in here. This is more like the history of crime in Beverly Hills. And so we did end up using one photo that was very
I did see that.
Yeah, it brings it home. It's like, and I checked with my daughter. I said, if we don't use that photo, what do you think? She goes, it's a horrible story that 2 young boys murdered their parents. I said, now if we add that photo, and she says, oh my God, those guys were complete, total psychopaths.
Crazies, exactly.
So it made a difference. We didn't just put them in there gratuitously. It was if it added to the story.
No, it did add. What about For Love, Murders for Love?
Oh, the Lana Turner, Johnny Stompanato.
Yeah,
and that's a story that's been told before. But we have a little bit of a twist on it, and we actually, it's the only story in the book that Clark and I disagree on.
Is that? Oh, tell us about Clark. Clark Fogg.
Clark Fogg.
I love the part that Clark Fogg comes in and tells you what clues to look for,
yes.
what to do.
He has their little stamps in here.
Yes,
that say,
I love
can I show you?
Yeah.
Where it says Clark Fogg's analysis, and he is.
I loved reading him because it's like a detective going, and it is a detective.
Exactly. So right here, boom, Clark Fogg's analysis. What really happened the night at the Greystone Mansion murders, and he is the head CSI, the lead CSI investigator at Beverly Hills. Been there for almost 30 years.
Was fantastic.
And super respected, well respected in the world for his use of fingerprint technology. So to have his input and then make sure we get all the facts in there and don't try to tell me something that's not true, it made for a really interesting, thorough read.
Was he easy to work with?
He was by far, as I like to say, my favorite partner in crime.
Oh, and talking about crime, how safe are we on the streets of Beverly Hills?
Oh boy. I would say safer, even though this book might make you think they happen just every couple of years. So it's not that often. And the response time to this day, from day one to this day, has always been within 2 minutes. It's a great place to live.
So we are
Very safe.
We are safe.
But there are scandals to read about.
What is your favorite scandal in this book, or the most interesting?
Probably, let's see, the Dr. Laura talk show host, her mother.
Oh, I know.
Right?
I read that.
How horrifying is that? Her mother was dead for 3 months before anybody found her, and her body was mummified. And I won't tell you the response because you can read it, but the response she had when the police called was just shocking. That, and then also the Bugsy Siegel murder case. We think we've solved it, Clark and I. We think
because nobody ever really knew what happened.
No, and it's a fascinating theory, which you have to read in the book because we know it's not closed for certain, but we think we've solved that case.
But that is, I'm going to read it again tonight.
Yes.
I started reading, and then I started reading Clark's things, and I thought, I wish I would have been trained as a police officer, because it was really interesting to get to that point. Yeah. Beverly Hills Confidential, not like the newspaper Confidential. This is factual.
The real deal, and hopefully entertaining.
Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the publicity.
Thank you.
So appreciate it.
And thanks for watching. We'll be right back with playwright Mark Troy. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Award-winning playwright, director, author, teacher, Mark Troy was born and raised in New York. He graduated from college in Queens and has gone on to author over 60 plays. His work has been represented in films, theater, and on TV. He teaches Introduction to Screenwriting in Burbank. He's a script doctor. He's the director of a play he's written called Anxiety at the Odyssey. Tell us about your career, how it started, and when you were in New York, why didn't you stay in New York and work?
That's a very good question. I'd like to say I came to LA for the weather, but it's about 115 degrees today, so I'm not really sure that's a selling point. I did start my career in New York. I'm from New York. My mother is an actress and a singer.
Oh, she is, so you had show business
So,
in your
yes,
blood.
we were seeing Broadway shows, you know, every week and going to the theater a lot. My dad used to build sets every once in a while.
Oh, fabulous.
And so there really wasn't much of a choice. I can't do anything else. So this
Well, you
was
could have acted, no?
I could have, but I have a great fear of being looked at, and I think that doesn't work with acting, right? You're not supposed to go into
I
acting
hate
if
that
that's a problem.
too.
Yeah, you know?
I do.
And
But can you memorize lines?
no, I have no memory.
Me either.
I have no memory of a show that I wrote. I would have no memory unless I saw it.
Oh,
you
that's
know.
what I was going to say. 60 plays,
Yeah, no.
hundreds of characters.
Yes.
And where do they all come from?
I know people quote things that they've seen in my shows, and I think, hey, that's a good line. Where'd you hear that? It's like, it's your show. I heard it 5 years ago, and, you know. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Oh, I love it, Mark. I'm the same way.
Yeah, I mean, I write it, I'm done, I can't remember anything.
Oh,
I move
yeah,
on to
I
the
write
next
it
thing.
and I do it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so that's how you got started.
But yeah, so I just started writing very early. Like I can remember like 13, 14 years old. I mean, really writing, not, you know,
Were you writing
journals.
plays for
Yes.
schools?
Yeah, I was writing plays, and then I did my first play when I was 18, off Broadway.
Did you do before we get to off Broadway? Did you do things like with your neighbors in the backyard, like so many people do?
No, I didn't find my neighbors talented enough to reach the level that I needed
Oh,
them
you
at.
were so good.
Yeah, I was like, no, you're not what we're looking for. I would tell like the other 10-year-old boys. So no, I didn't really put on the shows. I really thought, since I saw a lot of, you know, legitimate theater, that I was going to write something and they were going to do it. I never thought to do it in the garage or to do
Nothing.
the Mickey Rooney kind of thing.
So by 18, you're off Broadway.
Yeah, I did a
And I'm
show.
not going to ask you what play it is. Well, you probably remember that one.
I was thinking about it driving over, actually. It was a play called Going Home, and I remember it not being great, but being good.
But it was good enough to go on,
Yes,
right?
yes, and it
Did you
ran for a
have
little
anything
bit.
else to do with it after you wrote it?
Well, I became just in the rehearsals and the casting of
Yeah.
it. You know,
Did you?
what the writer, usually does. And there was a director, you know, a lovely guy, and he did a great job. You know, but
So did you start taking workshops for writing? How did you
well, what
end up?
happened was I had a big show up. Why?
I know,
I was
that's-
thinking, why should I take a workshop? No, I've never taken a writing class in my life. But in college, I had a writing professor. I went to Queens College. And I had a writing professor who wanted to work on his play. And one day I went to him, I said, listen, you want tickets to my show? I'll get you tickets to my show.
You already had your show.
Yeah, I had
then.
my show up. So he said, well, I'd love to see your show. Why don't you like run the class for a little bit? And because I want to work on my play. So there wasn't much to run, frankly, but I headed up the class, and he didn't show for about 3 months.
No.
Yeah, and I just would tell people, okay, read a couple of scenes and, do your thing.
This is funny because the next question I was going to ask you is about you teach writing.
I do.
And do you teach writing the way you were taught?
Right.
No, but that means someone else would be teaching your classes.
That's right, yeah, no, I actually took over. A friend of mine was a writing teacher here in LA, and he got a job in a film back east. And he said, would you take over the writing class for me? And I said, I know, because I really don't like to be in front of people. And I don't
Even
know-
in classes?
Even in class, I get very nervous. And
What are we doing here?
I don't know. We should really shut the camera and go for lunch. 'cause-
It's like a one-on-one, though.
yeah, that's
probably
true. I'm
for
pretending
you.
that the 1.5 million people are not seeing me
Right,
now.
exactly.
But I said to him, I said, I'll take over your class just for the term and until you get back. And what happened was at the end of the term, all the students are supposed to write out, if they liked the teacher. Or whatever,
Critique.
and I got better grades than him. So the school invited me back and didn't want him back.
And then, so
Invited
what were
me.
you, poor guy?
Yeah, I
Oh,
know.
Good. No more friends, right?
No, I don't really speak to him.
So what styles do you teach? I know you teach screenwriting,
Yeah, I teach screenwriting and I teach,
plays,
playwriting.
but what are the styles versus like screenplaying versus a play versus a book versus, I don't know, is it playwriting the same as a screenplay?
No, it's really different in the sense that the play lives for the words, obviously, and You know, when I say to people, you want to write a play, I said, why does that only belong in the theater? And if they can't answer the question, it's probably not a play. You know, if they could say, oh, it could be a film, and I'm like, so
I see.
Then it's not a play.
I see.
So I think it's based on their ideas about what they really want to concentrate on as far as their idea is concerned. And then I'll know sort of where to put them. They'll either be in the screenwriting class or the play class.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So you have, I see.
Yeah, because too many people think, especially now, they think that they can, you know, sort of first time out of the gate write, you know, Phantom of the Opera. And I'm always telling them, like, you know, who's going to pay for that chandelier to fall in your new play? You know, it's like, I think you have to work up to the chandelier fall.
Yeah, so
you know?
how do you work up? You write a small play?
I think you have to have a couple of hits before someone's going to invest, you know, in a chandelier.
So I know I can't ask you about all the 60 titles, but I can go back and say, I'm going to give you
I'll try to remember them.
Surahs, Dr. Chutzpah, Pets, Kosher Christmas. But those are the ones that I remember. That do you have to be Jewish to see those?
No, you might have to be Jewish to write it, but I don't.
You have to be Jewish to understand it, baby.
I always think that, no, not at all. I just think it's about family. You know, it's always about family.
Right.
I mean, sometimes the titles, you know, are an advertising thing or, you know, a media-related thing. I mean, I love all the titles. But, in fact, I like some of the titles better than the show. But, no, I think that it's ultimately about people, and all families are the same. And I tell, when I go to see something, I don't, you know, it could be an Irish play or a whatever, like, if I can recognize myself or someone I know, then I'm connected to the material.
So it would be Dr. O'Neill instead of Dr. Chutzpah.
Exactly.
And what's Putz?
The Putz we did in Great Britain. We did it about 1.5 years ago.
What is that?
What is a Putz?
Yeah.
Oh, a Putz is like a dope, a jerk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so it
don't
could
be
be
a
called the jerk.
Yeah, it could have been the jerk. If I was Steve Martin, I would have called it the jerk.
They call it the jerk.
I'm the Jewish Steve Martin.
And Surahs?
Surahs is like to give you a headache, like if you have a headache.
So what could that be if it were a Greek play or an
Yeah,
Irish play?
The enormous headache.
The headache, the enormous. Okay, all right. So you don't have to be Jewish to see
No,
it.
not at all. Not at all.
Okay. It sounds to me when you said you have to be Jewish to write it, that you write what you know about.
I think you do. I think you start with, you know, a place that you're familiar with, you know, and then you let it go. Like I know, like my sister thinks everything I write is about her, and nothing I write is about her. And she'll find the weirdest thing, you know, she'll say, you know, I wear a blouse like that. That must be about me. And I'm like, no, really? That's some costume designer made up the blouse. So I think it starts with who we are, but I think, you know, really good plays are an extension of that, you know.
Is the anxiety part of that, which is at the Odyssey Theater?
Yes, anxiety is a mother-son story. Yes. Right now I'm the only one with anxiety because I'm directing it, but the cast is great. But
Did you cast it?
Yes, and it's cast with, it was a very easy casting session. I casted with actors I've worked with before and like to work with.
And how many actors?
There's
I think
4.
2 or 3 women?
Yeah, there's 3 women and a guy. And it's a mother-son story about love and family. And, you know, it's not very Jewish at all now that
How long is it?
It's a full-length play. There's no intermission. It's about 1 hour and 15. With laughs, that's 1 hour and 16. So I think it's a nice evening at the theater.
Who's in the play?
We have Danny Lippin, Francesca Ferrara, Colette Friedman, all people I've worked with, and Jill Gascoigne.
Jill Gascoigne is here in Los Angeles with her husband,
Yes.
Alfred Molina, who's in Red at the Center Theater
he opens
downtown.
4 days before we do.
Oh, so is that why she's here?
Well, no, she lives here now.
Oh, she lives here.
Yeah, I believe she's an American citizen. I think we let her in.
So
I think they passed
it was
the test.
just by coincidence, but you have worked with her before.
Yes, I did. I did a show with her called The Plot about 6 or 7 years ago.
See, well, you're remembering some of these
yeah,
things.
I do remember
You're
Jill well.
remembering these titles.
She's very famous, so I like, yes. Which was a mother-daughter story.
So this is a mother-son story.
This is mother-son, yeah.
Dr. Chutzpah, or because you're a script doctor.
Right.
But are you the doctor?
He was a psychiatrist, as
He was a psychiatrist.
Yeah, he was.
But what is a script doctor?
Oh, a script doctor is a great job, but very few people have it.
And you are a script doctor.
Yes, I'm pretty well known as that. And what it is like, Well, in the television world, when people are working on their new pilots or whatever, it's a way to have someone else, a professional, look at the material from a completely outside source.
So it has nothing to do with theater?
No, I've done it with plays before.
You have done it with plays
It's mostly
too?
film and TV. They use script doctors, which is, it's not quite doing another draft of the script. It's more about looking at the material from a structural point of view or a character point of view or dialogue.
From all of those
Yeah.
point of views?
Yes,
Or
all of
do you think they have a problem with the characters so they call you in?
Well, it's like any doctor. They call you in and they say, I need help with the structure. And then by the time I'm through with them, none of the characters make sense. So they think they're diagnosing themselves. It's also part psychiatrist, I've noticed.
That's really funny that you say diagnose what was going on.
Yeah, it's a way of sort of fixing their shows, whether the show's on the air or not on the air, doesn't matter.
Who are you fixing? The writer?
Yeah.
The actors?
No, from the script point of view. But everyone, if it's a show that's on the air, sometimes like they'll tell me like, actors have to do this, and I have a tendency to like kill off the wrong character or tell them, hey, we gotta get rid of this person, and they're like, you can't get rid of that person, that's the star of the show.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh yes, but it works so much better in the story if we can kill him off.
But you know that's the star of the show.
Sometimes
Or
I do, sometimes I don't. It's funny because a lot of the shows I work on, I don't watch the shows because I'm trying to stay like I'm just an audience member.
I see.
Tuning in one night. So I don't know them that well, and I don't know the character name compared to the star, like their name or her name.
So you're just looking at what
I'm just looking at like as if from the paper what it's going to look like.
Doing
when
your
it's done.
job.
Just
Just
doing
a
my
doctor
job,
looking
confusing
at-
the story editors and killing off the wrong people.
And how do you, before we leave, how do you physically write?
You'd be
Write
like,
on a
what's
yellow-
my permission? Position?
You write on a yellow pad?
I'm in my pajamas. Picture this.
Okay, this is good.
See if your audience wants to hear this.
This is our closing.
Yeah, I'm in my pajamas. I'm at my desk. I have a high desk with a very high chair. Larry Gelbart, who I worked with,
he's
used to
great.
write, on a high thing, a high desk. And I typewrite, and I type about 140 words a minute.
Type?
Yeah.
On a computer?
Very fast, right on my Mac. And it just sort of comes out. And when it stops coming out, I have some fruit. And I go back, and I do it again. And when it stops coming out, I watch The View. I like to watch The View in the morning. And,
So
whatever.
you start early in the morning?
At about 8:30.
Yeah,
if I'm
so
lucky,
you have a routine.
Yeah, this schedule is tough. You can't write and direct at the same time.
So you've given up writing
I've
at
given-
this moment.
Yes, because we're up late, and then I have to sleep till 10 o'clock.
And
the next
will
day.
you go to every performance of Anxiety?
I have never seen a show of mine
Oh,
at all.
but you're directing.
Well, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide, and I'll make notes. I'm going to hide in the back behind a little black curtain, and I will make notes for them for the first couple of shows, But I would never sit in the audience of my show. I've sat in the booth, and I've had people like make a hole for me in the back wall where I can just sort of look through. And so I'll be there, I'll be around, but no one will find me, no one will see me. If you come to the show, though, I'll say hello.
I won't look for you. I won't
At the
look
end,
for you.
not at the beginning. Well, you'll never see me at the beginning.
Okay.
I will be hiding, but at
Okay.
the end I come out and say hello.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mark Troy, and thank you for watching us today. 777 South Figueroa, 44th floor, Los Angeles, 90017. And it's easier to just JAQUINN1 at AOL.com. See you next time.